أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي نور قلوب العارفين بنور معرفته وأثبت فؤاد أنبيائه وأوليائه بقصص الأنبياء والمرسلين وأكمل إيمان المسلمين والمؤمنين بولاية علي أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أفضل الموجودات العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أعني أبا القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة. Today, the 15th of Ramadan, the Wiladat of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam was born in the 3rd Hijrah after the migration of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Ali alayhi salam and Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha got married on the 1st of Dhul Hijj in 2nd Hijrah. And Hazrat al-Fadl, the wife of Abbas, the uncle of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam, she saw a dream and she was very concerned, and she came to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, I had a dream that a part of you, a light from you comes out and came into my lap, and I'm very concerned. And he smiled and he said, there's nothing to be concerned about. Soon Fatima Zahra salam alayha will give birth to my grandson, and you will also look after my grandson. You will also bring him up. Therefore, you have seen this dream that this light is my grandson. So the day Imam Hassan alayhi salam was born, the Holy Prophet came to the house of Imam Ali and Hazrat Fatima alayhi salam, and he said that bring my grandson to me. So Imam alayhi salam took Imam Hassan alayhi salam and gave him into the arms of the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet picked him up, kissed him and said, Ya Ali, what have you named him? Imam alayhi salam said, I do not take precedence over you. You will name him. So the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I will not take precedence over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever Allah names him. So Hazrat Jibreel came down from the heavens and said, Ya Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he has, Ali is to you like Harun was to Musa, and Harun had two sons, Shubbar and Shubair, or Shabbar and Shubair. And in Indo-Pakistan we say Shabbir. And therefore name your grandsons after the sons of Harun. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ said their language was Hebrew and they named their sons, and my language is Arabic and I'm going to name them in Arabic. So he said that is fine, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, so it's Hassan and Hussein. Hassan and Hussein both means handsome, nice looking, or nice, beautiful. And Hassan means older and Hussein means younger. Or Hassan means, just handsome, and Hussein means younger. And so they both were extremely handsome, extremely nice looking. And the people say that the most handsome person and the most resembling person to the Holy Prophet ﷺ was Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And Imam Hassan alayhi salam himself says that I resemble my grandparents the Holy Prophet ﷺ and Hazrat Khadija Salamullahi alaiha. So Hazrat Khadija was extremely beautiful, so he was very handsome. His face was very bright and extremely handsome, his eyes, his features. It says that in the books, the Shias and Sunnis have mentioned that whenever he would go out, the crowd would stop to just have a look at Imam Hassan Mujtaba. That's how handsome he was. Extremely handsome. And he was extremely generous, Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salam. So much so that he would be feeding the people through the whole year. Every day, anyone who wanted any food, they could come and ask. He wouldn't make a differentiation between a Shia of his father or a person who was not Shia follower, any Muslim, even non-Muslim. Anyone who came, they could ask for food and Imam Hassan Mujtaba Islam would feed them. He did not differentiate. And Shablanji, a Sunni historian, he has a book called Basa'irud Darajat, about the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Basair is a plural of, like Basira, like for example, visions. Darajat, meaning of elevated places. So he says in his book that Imam Hassan al-Islam was so generous that once he was going on Hajj, and our traditions mention that Imam Hassan al-Islam went to Hajj on foot from Medina to Mecca, which is over 500 kilometers, some 570 kilometers. And Imam Hassan al-Islam performed 25 Hajj on foot. More or less about 25 Hajj. I've seen some traditions that say 25 Hajj. On foot. And the people said, Maula, you have a horse, you have horses and camels. Why don't you ride your horse? Why are you walking? He said, the famous hadith, أَفْضَلُ الْأَعْمَالِ أَحْمَزُهَا. The most rewarding of the actions are the ones with the most trouble. So when you drive a long distance from your house to a religious place, or you walk a long distance, or the more reward in the month of Ramadan, because it is more difficult to fast and eat in summer, and the food and everything that you're avoiding. And for example, Fajr has more reward because you have to break your sleep and to get up. So more troublesome actions have more reward. So he says that I'm taking more trouble, I'm walking, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives more reward. And once in a Hajj, he was either going to Hajj or coming back, in a journey to or from Hajj. He was traveling with Imam Hussain alayhi salam and his brother-in-law. And their brother-in-law, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar. Three were traveling together, and their food ran out, and the drink, they probably shared with other people. So they were three together, and they ran out of all food and water. They were walking, and they said, let's search for food. And they reached a place where there was a small cottage. So they both, all three of them walked towards the cottage, and Imam Hassan al-Islam asked if there was anyone inside the cottage, and a lady came out and she said, yes, how can I help? They said, we are very hungry. Do you have any food and or drink or anything? She said, I have a goat, so you can milk the goat. And they drank the milk, but the milk was very little, so they were still hungry, and she noticed their faces. Anything else? No, nothing. And she said, slaughter my goat. And they said, no, this is your only property or whatever, you have nothing else. And so she said, no, I insist. Please slaughter the goat. So Imam Hassan Islam slaughtered the goat, and she cooked for them. They ate, and they said, Imam Hassan Islam said to her that if you ever need anything, then remember, we are from Medina, come to Medina. They left, and her husband came home and in the evening, and he said, where is the goat? And she said, well, some men came and they were very hungry, and so I fed them. He said, but we have nothing else. She said, well, they said, what were their names? She said, I don't know their name, but they were from Medina. He said, how are we going to find someone in Medina? Medina is big. Anyway, a few days later, they said, well, we can't live like this, and let's travel to Medina. So they came to Medina. So that's why I say that it must have been, a journey from Makkah back to Medina. So a few days later, I don't know, some days passed by. They came to Medina. When they came to Medina asking for food and everything in the streets of Medina, Imam Hassan al-Islam saw them. And Imam Hassan al-Islam quickly approached the lady and said, do you remember we were your guests once a few days, ago? A few weeks ago, She said, yes, I remember. So he said, come with me, with your husband, and I will gift you something. So they both went to his house, and he gave 1,000 goats or 1,000 goats and sheep to her, and said, this is my reward to you. This is a Sunni writer, Shablanji. He says in Basair al-Darajat that Imam Hassan al-Islam gave her 1,000 goats and sheep. And so she said, well, we don't need so many. He said, no, keep all of these. And before they were about to leave, he said, now go to my brother Hussein alayhi salam. Go to my brother. He will give you some goats as well. So both of the husband and wife went to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he gave them 1,000 goats as well. And they were so pleased and said, no, we can't, he said, no, keep all of them and then go to our brother-in-law, Abdullah ibn Jafar Tiyar, and he also gave either 1,000 or some hundreds of sheep and goats to them. So this was the, generosity of Imam Hassan al-Islam. He's known to be Kareem Ahlul Bayt. Kareem Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt al-Islam are all Kareem. Kareem is someone who is very generous. So there are two terms, generous, Sakhi in Arabic, and Kareem. Sakhi is the one who eats himself and feeds others. Kareem is someone who doesn't eat and feeds others. And the Holy Prophet is known to be Nabiya Kareem, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Allah Kareem, meaning He gives more to the others to eat than He eats Himself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need anything. So He is Kareem, and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Kareem, and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam are Kareem. They're not just Sakhi, they're not just generous, they are gracious. They are very generous. And amongst the Ahlul Bayt, the most generous is Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. His generosity is famous. His handsomeness and his generosity. These two are the most, the Imam Hassan al-Islam is known for these. Even today, people have the Sarkhan of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. He was so generous that even today they remember. So there are many, many stories associated to Imam Hassan alayhi salam for his generosity. He would feed the people throughout the year. Once a person came and he asked Imam Ali alayhi salam for something to eat. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, come and sit with me and eat. And the man said, I can't eat what you're eating. It's dry bread and, I need some nice food. He said, then go to my son Hassan. Then go to a man who is feeding. He didn't say it's my son Hassan. He said, go to that man in Medina. He will feed you. Guided him to Imam Hassan. The man came and he said, can I have some food? Imam Hassan said, made the sufra and, camel meat and goat meat and everything for him. He said, eat. So the man started eating and started saving some. He said, who are you taking this for? He said, there is a poor man. He eats dry bread. He said, all of this is his. That is my father, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So Imam Hassan alayhi salam is known for his generosity and his knowledge. No matter what questions people asked him, he answered. And once he was a child and a person asked the first Khalifa a question about a kafara. So he said, a penalty for Hajj. He said, I went on Hajj and I broke the eggs of an ostrich and I ate them. What is a kafara? So first Khalifa started sweating and he said, I don't know the answer. Ask Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah. He came to Ubaidah ibn Jarrah. Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah said, I don't know the answer either. Ask Ali ibn Abi Talib. He came to Imam Ali, he said, would you know the answer to the question? I went to Hajj, and in Hajj you're not supposed to hunt or, kill any animals or, eggs and everything. So I broke some eggs of an ostrich and I ate them. Imam Ali smiled at him and he said, you see those two young boys? Imam Hassan and Imam Hassan. He said, yes. He said, ask any one of them. So the man looked at Imam Hassan and he said, okay, he looks very innocent, but he's older, so I'll ask him. So he said, are you going to answer my question? He said, yes. He said, so what is my penalty? He said, the penalty is that you buy some she-camels and when they give birth, to their baby camels, then give all of those baby camels in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Hajis, the poor Hajis. Imam Ali Islam smiled and said, yes, that's the correct answer, my son. But some pregnant camels, she-camels, will not give birth. Their babies may not live. Then he said, well, then father, some eggs do not hatch. They also go rotten. So, Imam Hassan and Imam Ali picked him up and kissed him and said, yes, perfect. So, Imam Hassan from very early age, as the Imams alayhimus salam are, they are chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're gifted and their knowledge is special. But Allah chooses someone for a reason. He knew that if I left everyone to obey me and said, okay, you all obey me, the people who would have been first and would have been ahead of the rest of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have been the 14 infallibles. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Imam Ali, Hazrat Fatima, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, and the rest of the Imams. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them because He knew through His knowledge that these are the best. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was extremely brave and courageous, and in the Battle of Siffin, he fought against the whole army of Muawiyah when they had blocked the water supplies from the river. He pushed them all back and he said now to the army of Imam alayhi salam that you all have water. So the army said to Imam Hassan, do we block their water? He said, no. Don't block them from drinking water. But the army people started saying, the soldiers, Maulana, but they blocked us from drinking water. Why should we not block them? The Imam al-Islam said, well, that was their character. This is ours. We must not do as they were doing. So his generosity is for everyone. And his miraculous life, his beautiful life, where throughout his life he did many decisions for his father. One day, two decisions I want to show of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. Once he was very young and he was with Imam Hussain Islam in Masjid al-Nabawi, where they both saw a man, an elderly person, who was not performing wudu properly. So Imam Hassan Islam said to Imam Hussain, brother, did you notice that his wuzu is not correct? He said, yes, I noticed his wuzu is incorrect. He said, let's come with me and correct him. But look, they don't say, you elderly man, you old man, you ignorant man, you are so elderly, you still don't know wudu. No, very respectfully. Imam Hassan Islam spoke to him, he said, Ya Shaykh, oh honorable person, or, like with respect. Shaykh is for respect. You call ulama who are not Syed, Shaykh. So, he called him with respect. He said, "Oh Shaykh, I say my wuzu is correct and my brother says his wuzu is correct. You tell us whose wuzu is correct." You see, even in correcting the wuzu, he did not lie, because you see, infallibility, you cannot lie. He did not say, "I say my brother's wuzu is incorrect and he says my wuzu is incorrect," because they couldn't say that. The wuzu was correct. So he said, "I say my wuzu is correct and my brother says his wuzu is correct." They were both correct. You tell us whose wuzu is correct. He said, "Okay, show me how you perform wuzu." So Imam Hassan Islam performed wudu perfect. And then he said, "Okay, brother, it's your turn now." So Imam Hussain Islam performed perfect wudu, exactly the same. And then they both looked at the elderly person, and he looked and he said, "Both of your wuzu is correct. It is I whose wuzu is not correct." So he made him realize, but with so much respect and dignity, there is no one better than the infallibles, and yet they give so much respect to the common people. And sometimes we become so arrogant that we have no respect for someone who is just a little less than us. It is important that we respect every person. Arrogance is not something liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People who are arrogant will be resurrected as ants on the day of judgment because they thought they were better and bigger than everyone else. Allah will make them so small. So ignorance is not liked in Islam. So Imam Hassan Mujtaba, so modest, so handsome and so learned, so, he's infallible and so generous and yet so modest. He would always tell the children that today you're children, but tomorrow you'll be leaders. So learn everything from us perfectly, so tomorrow when you become leaders, you lead properly. And if you cannot remember everything, then memorize. And if you cannot memorize, then write them down. So tomorrow when you have those decisions to make, you make them perfectly. Can you imagine the generosity of Imam Hassan Mujtaba and his perfection? So we believe in an Imam who had such a good conduct. One day, Imam Islam had he came across a person who saw that probably the two stories are connected, ulama believe, where he saw a man who came to pray and he left the food he was buying to take home for lunch. And he left it wasn't like today's age where everything is packed and sealed. In olden days, they would just buy from people, so they would have open, there were no packets, and packaging, was not like today. So he had a utensil, and in it was some yogurt. So he bought it and he left it outside the masjid, and he went inside to pray. The foods, the items he left on the ground, and he came out of the mosque and he saw that there is a mark on top of the yogurt. And he looked around, what's going on? And he far away saw a dog, which also had a mark on his mouth. And he said he thought the dog must have put the mouth in the yogurt, so the yogurt is now najis. He wanted to throw it away. Imam Islam came out and he said, "No, the yogurt is tahir, pak. It's clean. Take it home." He said, "No, but Yani, there's a mark on the yogurt, and the dog has a mark." He said, "No, the dog didn't eat from it." He said, "But how do I know?" He said, "I'm telling you." He said, "No, but I can't. I've just seen that dog." He said, "Did you see the dog put the his mouth in the yogurt?" He said, "No, I didn't see it, but there is a mark, So he threw away the yogurt. Islam said, "You should have just taken it home. There was nothing wrong with it." Anyway, few weeks later, the same man, he was slaughtering an animal, a goat or a sheep under a tree, and he got up to do something, and he suddenly heard, "Murder, murder, murder!" People are shouting, someone's been murdered. And he had a knife in his hand, and blood. And he came and he said, "Who's been murdered?" And everyone looked and said, "He must be the murderer. He is the killer. He has a knife and blood." So they all quickly grabbed him, and so he doesn't hit them. He had no chance to say that I didn't murder. So they quickly caught him and they brought him to Imam Ali and they said, "Ya Ali, there's been a murder and we've just found the murderer as well." Imam Ali looked at the man and smiled. He said, now you understand that what I was saying on that day? He said, so you know that I'm innocent? He said, I knew that day that the dog hadn't touched, and I know today. You see, when you doubt Imam al-Islam's intention, you sometimes get in trouble. When you doubt Imam's work and his knowledge, you get in trouble sometimes. So he had doubted, the Imam's decision. So nevertheless, anyway, so, the same thing happened. He said, so he said, yes. But the decision will be made by my son Hassan, alayhi salam. Imam Hassan alayhi salam came and he looked at the man. While they were talking, another man came and he said, I'm the murderer. And the people said, Ya Ali, now we have two murderers and one person murdered. Were they together killing him? Imam alayhi salam said, let Hassan and Mujtaba alayhi salam decide. Imam Hassan alayhi salam looked at them and he said, both of them are forgiven. He said, how? There is a murder. Imam said, well, this man who had a knife in his hand, he was slaughtering a goat. Go and find under so-and-so tree or under so-and-so bush. They went and they found, oh, yes, we found a goat. He said, this man is innocent. He said, okay, let him go. And what about the other man? He says he's committed the murder. He said, well, he was a servant or a slave of that other person who's murdered. And that man was oppressing this man. He was doing wrong to him. So, therefore, this man was innocent, and to save his life, he murdered him. Therefore, he is also forgiven. And the people turned around to him and said, Ya Ali, is this correct? He said, yes, the decision is correct. Oh, Hassan, give them reasoning why you said this. He said, well, this man is innocent. He didn't murder anyone. He was slaughtering his sheep. That man, yes, he did murder. And the Quran says, Man qatala nafsan bighayri nafsin wa fasadin fil ardh faka'annama qatala an-nasa jami'an. Whoever kills a soul as if he has killed the whole of humanity. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever saves the soul has saved the whole of humanity. وَمَنْ أَحْيَا فَقَدْ أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. So he says, this man, yes, did murder, and he was innocent. Because he was being oppressed. To save his life, he killed him. And then he again has saved another life. He could have ran away, but he came to save the life of this person. So he took a life, but he saved a life. And he took a life to save his own life. So he's innocent. The people said, Ya Ali, is this correct? He said, yes. This is a perfect decision. So you can see that the decisions of Imam Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam cannot be matched with anyone else's decisions. No one can compete. No one can ever be parallel to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So the Imam alayhi salam is a perfect example for all of us to follow. There are many other incidents from his life, Imam Hassan and Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. He had, his sons, he made the will to them to go and fight for their uncle, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Hazrat Qasim, Hazrat Abdullah, Hazrat Bakr, and probably another son. So you can imagine that Imam Hassan alayhi salam was extremely caring and loving, especially to his brother, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, all his life. And when Imam Hussain alayhi salam was crying upon him, he said, Atabki alayya mabki alayk, don't cry upon me. Are you crying on me? When I remember the atrocities you will go through, I still want to cry upon you, O my brother. So he was extremely caring and generous. It's important. Some person once asked him, when he was about to travel, or, he said, Maula, tell us 10 things, one better or harder or more severe than the other. More severe than the other. He said 10 things. The hardest, the most severe, the severest is a rock, stones. It's very hard. And harder than, or more severe than it, is metal or iron that breaks the rock. More severe than the iron is fire that melts the the iron. More severe than the fire is water that puts out the fire. More severe than water is the cloud that carries the water hither and thither. More severe than the cloud is the air that makes the cloud blow right and left, east and west. More severe than the air itself is the angel of air that blows the air. More severe than the angel of air is the angel of death that will even take the life of the angel of air. More severe than the angel of death is death itself that will even come to the angel of death. And more severe than the death itself is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can delay the death. So can you imagine the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The only people who can explain everything and give intellect to it or wisdom to it or depth to it are Muhammad and Ali Muhammad alayhi salam, or people who've learned from them, or people who Allah has blessed. وَمَنْ أُوتِيَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever has been given wisdom has been given enormous goodness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of these are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam in Medina, he had his own agriculture. He had many palm, dates, gardens, his own, and plantation, So he had his own plantation where he would work, and he had many people he had employed, so he had many employees. Probably also some tijarat and some, some trading, but mainly, his own agriculture. So the Imam alayhi salam mainly, had their own agriculture, and they had also some business, So they were all hardworking and, well off, but they worked very hard. Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam, many people accused him of getting married. Banu Umayyah, Muawiyah made up so many stories against him that he got married 1,000 times, he had 1,000 wives, And once a Sunni person was giving a speech, and one of the great Shia scholars was there, and he said, Imam Hassan al-Islam was very good, but he had 1,000 wives. So the Maulana said, Maulana, most people who are famous, their children's name everyone knows, and their wives' names. Do you know the 1,000 wives' names? He said, no. He said, do you know the names of 100 wives from Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba? He said, no. He said, do you know even names of 10 wives of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba? He said, no. He said, then why make up something that you don't even know? When you can't even think of 10 names of his wives, then he didn't have 10 wives. Why say 1,000? So Muawiyah made up so much against Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. You see, sacrificing wealth is hard for Islam. Sacrificing your life is harder, and sacrificing your honor and respect for Islam is very difficult. Imam Hassan alayhi salam sacrificed all three. He gave his wealth for Islam. He gave his life. He was killed by Muawiyah. He was poisoned by his own wife, who Muawiyah had planted, Joda bint Ashas. And he gave his respect and honor for the sake of Islam by signing a peace treaty with Muawiyah, just to save Islam and Muslims. And at least three times in his life, he gave at least half of all of his wealth. And sometimes, some say even all of his wealth. And he restarted his life, and sometimes, half of his wealth he gave away, and then he rebuilt his life. So we follow an Imam who was extremely generous, and today is an Eid day for us, 15th of Ramadan, the Wiladat of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. Let's pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, for on Eid, we usually ask for Eid, oh Allah, give us Eid, forgive us all of our sins, great sins and small sins. Oh Allah, bless us with the reappearance of the 12th Imam alayhi salam. Oh Allah, remove this coronavirus from the surface of the earth. Oh Allah, bless all the mu'mineen across the globe, all of the people who are organizing this Hussainiya Islamic Society of Seattle, and all the mu'mineen listening. Oh Allah, protect all of the mu'mineen across the globe, and especially our holy sites. And oh Allah, give long life to all mu'mineen, all of us, with sustenance, wealth, with Iman, with recitation of the Holy Quran, understanding the Holy Quran, with following the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam, and with health. And O Allah, bless us with the shafa'at of Imam Hassan Mujtaba Islam in the hereafter, and bless us with the ma'rifat of Imam Hassan Mujtaba, and visiting his grave many, many times in this world. And O Allah, we want to see Jannatul Baqi rebuilt. O Allah, across the globe, many people are suffering from hunger, illnesses, from poverty. O Allah, remove all of these problems from all the mu'mineen for this day, for the sake of this day, for the sake of Imam Hassan Mujtaba. O Allah, accept the deeds, all of our deeds in this month. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم بحق محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.